Let's go. Let's go. Turn your shit up.
It's up.
It's up.
Are we live?
We're live. You can turn yours up a little bit more because mine's closer to me. You're in your reclining odalisque position on the new couch.
This is not a chaise lounge.
There's a chaise lounge in the living room. How many chaise lounges do you expect in this house?
I don't know if I'd call that a chaise lounge either.
Why? Because there's two ends on it?
Yes.
So
So a
what would it
chaise
be?
lounge has like a chair-like
Arm.
end on one and like an arm, and then the other end is completely open.
The chaise lounge really is like the mullet of furniture.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. It's
No.
business on one side, party on the other side.
A chaise lounge is a fabulous piece of furniture that will never, ever go out of style.
I agree.
And
Well, I have one in my living room.
that's not a chaise lounge.
What would you call it? A daybed?
No, it's just it's a weird couch.
You're a weird couch.
I don't mean weird as in bad. I like it. I like the piece of furniture. It just it's not a chaise lounge. It's a type of couch because it has two ends that.
But no back.
Right. That's why I say it's a weird couch. But it has two ends that match each other. A chaise lounge does not have two ends. It's open on one.
Well,
Well,
Miss Ma'am.
now that we've defined furniture.
Now that we've defined furniture, got a whole list of topics to cover here. We're going
Yes.
to try to bang through as many as we can. Speaking of which,
Oh, God.
I understand that you have a dating story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I have to preface this by saying that so this was a date that I went on off of Hinge, right?
Was it unhinged?
Yes. And I have to preface that on Hinge, that is the only account, that is the only dating profile on which I am absolutely 100% upfront with everything.
Fish.
So it has
a woman.
It has a place to put your political preferences.
Right.
And I list conservative.
Really?
I just flat out list that.
I'm surprised you didn't put like moderate or something like that.
Because I'm not going to lie.
That's
I'm not going to lie. So I also use that to gauge whom I match with.
So you like filter out through that. Because I've done that before, and that was... I remember one date someone said, I just wanted to go on a date with you to see what it would be like to be on a date with a conservative, and you were more interesting than I expected. Which I guess it's like being like a zoo animal or something like that. Like, oh, you didn't shit in your hand and throw it at me, and that's fine. I'm actually not...
Does he know that that's
Disappointed.
for date 3? Like,
Exactly.
we're conservative. We don't do that until date
Exactly.
3. So I'm very upfront. I put all that stuff out there. And he matched with me anyway. And his political affiliation was listed as moderate.
That's interesting.
Which is why I matched with him.
Because
Because
there's
I was...
a few of those. Not many. There's a few.
And I've noticed that on these gay sites, most of the people who put moderate tend to be a little bit more conservative because in the gay world, labeling yourself a conservative is, death.
Yeah, you can... you will upset the hardcore leftist by saying that you're moderate on a dating profile because they'll be like,
Right.
you should be down with the struggle. But at least, I guess it's taking its own position because you're like, I'm not... You can do I'm not as bad as both sides kind of thing. And then you can kind of thread that needle and avoid pissing off most people.
Right. So I thought he knew, what he was getting into. And so I'll fast forward. I won't talk about, we texted back and forth and I won't delve too much into that.
Oh.
But we texted back and forth for like a week. And then we finally agreed, okay, let's meet up. This was last night. So I drove from work down to Venice Beach where he lives. And
Wait, you were in Venice Beach last night?
Yes.
Were you his little Venice bitch?
Yes.
Oh, God.
So I pull up to his place, and of course, in Venice Beach, there's like no parking anywhere.
No.
So he very nicely just opened his garage and let me park in his garage. And
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow. You parked in his garage.
On the first
Before
date.
you even met him.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So, garage unlocked.
Which I thought was... I had visions of me parking my car in the garage, and as he closed the door, being like, he's going to hold me captive, like I'm never going to leave or something, because my car and my laptop is all in there. But anyway, we walked to this local Mexican restaurant in the area, and we start talking, and I asked him, this is the first time I've actually ever been to Venice Beach. Like, how do you enjoy living here? He said, oh, I moved in, about 6-7 months ago.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I used to live in the valley in Calabasas and stuff like that. So
Calabasas? Is he a nice boy?
So I should also say, this is a 55-year-old Persian Jewish man.
Oh, God. Pick a struggle.
So all of these things should be, they're some of my prerequisites, right? Like...
conservative in many ways.
Right.
Because you come from probably a big family, and they're strong on family values. Like, look, I really don't think there's any Persian liberals who live around Tarantulas. Like, let's be honest.
Most of those indicators point to a little bit more conservative. So, anyway, he starts talking, and he starts talking about Venice Beach, and I said, everyone says the crime here is pretty bad, especially the homelessness. What have you noticed?
Right.
And he starts talking about how he can't stand the homeless people who are around there because they yell and scream, and sometimes he's working during the day on a business call and he hears them screaming, or he's out there with his coffee in the morning and they're having like an acid trip or something, like ridiculousness.
It should be noted that, Sheriff Villanueva, who just actually lost his re-election, was very hard on cleaning up the homeless in Venice, because that was, I think, the most violent incidences with the homeless of any neighborhood in Los Angeles.
He told me he was apparently attacked.
Yeah, so and it would be like, it's not like, after dark or something like that. No, 8 o'clock in the morning, like, someone's being stabbed with like a rusty knife in the middle of the Venice boardwalk. Someone else is dying and bleeding out. Someone's getting sepsis, and you're like, no one's even gotten their coffee yet. Like, it was where, like, you had like the really tough cases, and so finally the sheriff's department stepped up and was like, we have to clean this up. And so that was kind of like, people who lived there saw declines happening on a monthly basis. Like, it was like, from January to June, like, it got significantly worse. So
he started talking about how the homeless situation is horrible in Venice Beach, and how he blames partly the more radically progressive policies for doing this.
Good. And
I'm hearing all this, and he actually said, I'm so sick of it, we need to just put all these people on a bus and get them the hell out of here. Mm. And I was just like, okay, like, maybe we're going to have something in common.
Right.
And then he says, listen to me, I sound like one of those ridiculous Republicans.
Oh.
And I went, well, I mean, as you saw by my profile, I mean, I kind of am one. And he goes, oh. Like it's news to him. Like, he didn't see that. Like, we hadn't, like
he didn't read that or something like that?
So I did not, I was taken aback by the, like, surprise in his voice. And so we then proceed to have a 2-hour date and dinner, talking about nothing but politics, basically.
Really?
Just a back and forth of politics. And he apparently is a director of the Stonewall Democrats in California.
Oh, God.
So, like, everything that he was saying, because we also talked about the trans issue. Mm-hmm. And he is very much on board with what I was saying about, childhood trans
LGBT
stuff.
Without the T kind of thing.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. You are the cognitive dissonance here is alarming, because he's talking about throwing, being almost inhumane by throwing homeless people on a bus and, like, shipping them out of here.
But anyone 50 and over says that around here.
But still, that's not something any Democrat would ever say.
Right.
Then saying something like, there's no such thing as no binary. He said that, like, there's two genders, period, end of story. Like, all of this stuff that I'm like, yes, I agree with you. And then he turns around and says, but Donald Trump is the Antichrist. He literally said, is the Antichrist. Is all of this stuff. And then when I said, because I am a gay Republican, he said, I'm sorry, that name, gay Republican, just sounds like you're saying Nazi Jew.
Oh.
And I'm just like...
I did not see that one coming.
Right, exactly. Well, and then And then he starts talking about the quote barbarians that live in his former country, because he was born in Iran.
Yeah.
And talking about the Muslim people and how they're all barbarians and horrible people, godless people.
Oh.
And I'm like, wait. So you're saying all of this stuff that no leftist would say in their right mind, but then you're talking about media propaganda that stupid Trump conservative people buy into, and I'm like, I don't see the connection how you can be so polar opposite, like,
right,
on certain issues.
Like, it's almost like he's against himself. In a sense, it's... Well, okay, I just had to do some math. So, 44 years ago was the Iranian Revolution. You know, Ayatollah Khomeini and stuff like that. And so, he was probably old enough to remember when his family left and witnessed what it was like to go from having a normal middle-class lifestyle, you know, doctors, lawyers, accountants, everything like that. All of a sudden, not only were their assets seized, their families were killed, they had to escape as quickly as possible. That's why there's a Persian population in Los Angeles, because of 1979. Right.
And I tried to get him on that topic to see, like, you know, what his backstory was. He did not want to talk about it.
Did I ever tell you the story about when Jimmy Carter ballsily came and did a book signing in L.A., and it was at the Barnes & Noble on Westwood Boulevard, right in the middle of Tehrangeles. So all the Persians blamed Jimmy Carter for the holding of the American hostages and for the fall of Iran. So he's hated in the Persian community. Like, they
probably for good reason.
But no, I mean, like, when he dies, which, by the way, what is this whole thing about? He's entering hospice. This was like a year ago. Like, so many people have died since then, and he's just like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I don't know. I think he went to rehab. But, you know, with the day he dies, they will literally be dancing in the streets. Like, because they hate him that much. I went to that book signing, and I stood there in line with a friend of mine, and the Persians showed up and started shouting at him. They spit on the ground in front of him. Like, they were holding signs. They were, like, so pissed. But they were some of the most well-dressed protesters I've ever seen in my life. If you ever want to see a protester show up in a suit and tie or a full cocktail dress, get a Persian protest. Like, they were very, you know, they were very polite. They're very upset, but they hate his guts. So that still lives among the Persians. He's, again, old enough to remember what it was like, where they basically had to, like, fill everything you can in a duffel and get the fuck out, kind of thing. So that's interesting to me that, you know, it was a liberal foreign policy that led to that, and it was only because of the Reagan administration later on and everything like that that Persians could claim asylum, and they were able to basically set up a new homeland in the United States.
And he went on to basically blame Reagan for all the economic problems we're in today. And
but that's like a liberal argument. Reagan is like beloved by the Persian community for standing up and freeing the hostages.
This is why it's complete cognitive dissonance. I was like, how can you possibly hold these two vastly different people in your head?
It feels almost like
bipolar.
It's marketing, because I know many liberal people who, when I get them in a room and I talk to them like you, many people, maybe we haven't, who, when it comes to issues, I'm like, you and I agree about not just 50%, 75 to 80% of the major issues. Like, we're on the same page, we know what the problems are, we've identified them, and some of our solutions are the same. And yet, at the last second, it's like there's like this little pull cord that they have. They pull like, but I'm not like those Republicans. And it's like, oh, like, you know, they pull this thing, and you're like, oh, okay, that's weird, because you could get basically everything you want. Versus, I think that there's many people who speak in a conservative way, especially when it comes to matters of religion and faith and things like that. Like some of those, you know, in big quotation marks, churches, the ones led by women. And then you see, like, the pride flag and the trans flag and all this stuff outside, and you're like, how conservative are you really? Like, they're the ones saying to bring in the migrants. They're the ones saying to, you know, like, let the homeless run rampant, like, stuff like that. And you're like, what do you actually believe in?
And he also, we got on the topic of immigration, and he was basically saying that every European country was full on racist, for different reasons. And I wasn't quite following his logic there, but we had this disagreement of, is the border open?
Yes,
and
open.
I recall during one of the Democratic primary debates in 2019, right before 2020, where they were asked, every person on the stage was asked, would you have, it was basically verbatim, would you have an open border, to this country, both south and north? And everyone raised their hands yes. And obviously that's a Democratic primary, so everyone's going to do that. But the point is, they said yes. And I made that point. He said, I don't remember that. That never happened.
But I remember that, yeah.
And then he says, but I've been to the border many times. It's not actually open. I've had to wait in line to go through, customs and shit like that.
Okay, waiting in line at the Nogales checkpoint or the San Diego checkpoint is not the same as...
The definition of... My definition of open and yours are very different. Like, I'm not saying that they're literally just letting anyone in, but there are places on the border that do not have, any security, right?
At all.
And no fence, no wall, no nothing.
No wall, no fence, no nothing.
You
and
can
just
literally
open
just
desert.
cross in.
Yeah.
And for him to not understand that that's a possibility, I guess he thinks that everyone who's crossing the border just goes through one of those checkpoints.
No,
where people
unless you
are.
want to get caught. Those checkpoints are very well manned, and they have very hardworking.
Because they're on roads,
right? They're on roads, and they have very hardworking border patrol agents that they go out there, they sniff every vehicle, they check everything out. They don't let anything get by them. They're very good with that.
Right.
But if you go 40 miles into the desert and you just go across, you're on someone's land. You go from someone's land to someone else's land. It's not.
So yeah, let's just say the date was a lot of fun because I enjoyed having the conversation. He was a very nice man.
The repartee.
Yes, he was a very nice man. Other than his colorful epithets towards Republicans, I actually told him if you just want to be friends and just have political conversations, I enjoyed this. I would have dinner with you again just to talk. And he said maybe. I doubt that'll ever happen. But the very last thing that he said to me before I left was, he said, I've been to many of the Log Cabin Republicans pool parties. I've been invited to them. And I wanted so badly to say, who invited you?
Who did you know?
Right, so you have to know someone, right? I didn't ask, and I was like, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, I just don't understand why all of you gay Republicans are just so damn hot.
Oh!
And I'm like, I don't know. Well, I wanted to say, I didn't say it because he is Jewish. I guess it's just the Nazi blood or something.
What?
But I didn't say it.
What's wrong with you?
I didn't say it. I thought it. I didn't say it. And I just left and was like,
said just
wow.
the Ozempic.
But who's inviting him to these parties? If he's a Stonewall Democrat,
I think I know who.
That organization is pretty...
I think I know who.
Well, we can talk about that offline.
I think it's that one friend of yours that has the funny post, the Persian one. I bet the Persians... No.
I don't think he's part of the...
I think
Log Cabin group.
Because you have a lot of the same mutual followers. But it's good that... here's the thing. I think I'm going to just say this. I think that he was not telling the truth when he said that he hadn't read your profile. I think he did. I think he knew what he was getting into. And I think that, he wanted some fun repertoire. Remember, Persians and Jews just need someone to argue with. And when they run out of people, they have to find new people. It's true.
I also have to say, really quickly, do you know how many COVID shots he's had?
How many are you supposed to have had by now? 7, 8? It
I
was 2 plus
honestly,
a booster. It was supposed to be every 6 months, right? Since every 6 months since early 2021. So you think that you're supposed to get 3 in 2021, and then 2 in 2022. So that's 5 by the end of 2022. 6. You should probably be at 7 by now if you're supposed to be following the schedule.
So he said this last shot he got a few days ago was number 6.
Oh my god.
And I had to I had to do it. And I explained to him. And by the way, there was no alcohol consumed by either of us. We had this completely stone cold sober. I had to explain to him, you do realize that the whole point of an mRNA vaccine is to give you a specific code of mRNA to elicit production of certain amino acid sequences.
Right.
To act as though your body has already had this virus and has the ability to fight it off.
Right.
As soon as any slight mutation of that virus has occurred, that vaccine that you've gotten is useless.
Right.
So, if you are not 6-7 months ahead of any kind of mutation, which you cannot predict, by the way, then any vaccine you get is going to be useless.
Right.
Like, and he goes, oh, yeah, that makes sense, but I still get it anyway. I'm like, you're just giving money to people who don't need it. Like, I don't understand why people don't
at this point, you're just doing it reflexively.
Like, these vaccines are not actually protecting you from anything. The science dictates that theoretically, if you can make a vaccine in this capacity, it would be amazing. It could stop something dead in its tracks. Right. If you got things out fast enough.
Right.
But there's no fucking way you can get things out fast enough before something else mutates and that vaccine becomes ineffective.
Right.
It's literally impossible. So I don't know why it's an ingenious idea, but it's not going to work in practice, I guess is my point.
I think so. It's weird to me that there's people who just almost make like a personality of, I got my booster, I wear my mask on the plane, I'm like this. I went into a crowded room and none of you had like someone I saw on Twitter said something to the effect of, I went to go get my booster shot at CVS and the pharmacist didn't wear a mask who gave me the shot, but I did. And I'm like, ugh. Like I think that there's the fact that I can walk around Los Angeles and no one's wearing one at least gives me hope, I guess.
I mean, I've seen a few people, but not too many. So
if I don't, okay, here I should be more clear. You are allowed to wear one if you are an old Asian person. Other than that, no, you can't. It should be illegal. It's too much. Okay, it's too much, and you could be committing retail crime.
As I've taken up way too much time for this story,
it's fine.
What would you like to move on to next?
I want to. Okay,
your gypsy story.
Yes. Okay.
I did not. You teased it, but I have no idea what this is about.
So I got up one morning and I did my usual walk, and this one was without the dog. So Kyle already took the dog up. I went and usually whenever he takes the dog up the one canyon, I go down Ventura and I meet him at Starbucks basically, and then we walk back. And that's usually how it works. But then sometimes I take the dog and he meets me, so we balance it out. Because the hike that we do with the dog is very taxing. It's not an everyday one. Like, you go straight uphill. You go to the back of this canyon that we're at, like, around the corner.
So it's not the same one that we've done?
No. It connects to it, though.
Okay.
So it goes to the back of the canyon, and then when you get all the way in the back of it, you go straight up for 7 to 10 minutes. Like, straight up. Like, not even like the Griffith hike. Like this. And I have to stop a couple times. Like, it's a lot. Even the dog's like, fuck you. Like, why are you doing this to me? But it takes you to the top of the trail. And then you wind down that, and it meets up at the top of where ours usually goes, where I stop to go pee. Right. So then you go and do the rest. So I just went down Ventura. So I'm walking by PetSmart or Petco or whatever the pet store is there. And I usually cut to the parking lot. And these two gentlemen, I should say. Has this happened to you? You get approached with a box of candy. Like, would you like to buy some candy? Like, I'm fundraising for whatever
I don't take candy from strangers, if that's what you're asking.
No, it's true, but these people...
I was taught that when I was young.
Yes. These people approach you, usually in front of a grocery store or something like that. Like, be like, oh, for $1, buy a candy bar. Like, my cousin needs a new lung. Stupid shit like this. But usually it's children.
Was it that nasty World's Finest chocolate?
It usually is, yes. It's bad. It's not even like Snickers or something. It's bad. And so usually the people who approach you are like it's like an 8-year-old kid, like, I'm raising money for,
and you can say, fuck you.
Exactly. And then I'm like, I'm going to teach you a very important lesson. Go fuck yourself. And then, you move it along.
Are we supposed to end the episode now?
And so, normally these are 8-year-olds. These guys were about 20 years older than that. So the two of them looked like they should be on a basketball team. And the one's like, excuse me, sir. And I'm like, oh, God. I'm like, I just looked down at my phone. I'm texting him, like, as soon as he said, excuse me, I'm like, I'm not interested. Thank you. Like, I'm booking it. I just need my coffee. It's 10:30 in the morning. I'm tired. I went out the night before. Like, I just don't.
Wow, you're a bitch.
I just can't. I have a very firm policy of I do not engage with anybody before noon. It's my rule. Like, the only person I talk to is a barista before noon. After noon, I will be a wonderful person. But before noon, please, like, just don't talk to me. Like,
wow.
It's just too much.
You're kind of a bitch.
Yes. I learned from you. And then
I'm a morning person, so...
The second one saw me, and so I'm wearing that lucky shirt that says Big Sir, like, like Big Sir California on the front. He's like, hey, Big Sir, I like your shirt. Should I call you Big Sir? And I'm like, oh, thank you. And I just keep, I keep moving it. But I'm like, why are they busking for money for candy bars and stuff like that? But these are grown-ass men. Like, they're both taller than I am, and I'm 6'2". Like, this is like kids asking for money. Like, why are adults doing this? So I'm like, that's weird. So I walk a little bit further, I go around the curve, I get to the gas station where Rocco's is. Like, right when you cross into the sort of the business street.
I'm trying desperately to see where this connects to Gypsy.
Oh.
Okay.
So I get to there, and I see a woman in her early 20s in a Party City sailor suit, a very suggestive one, by the way. Like, there were leggings, and the skirt was very short, and it was like the blue and white, like the picture of Heather Graham in that one meme that you see where she's like in a little sailor costume with the hat. So there's a woman dressing in a fucking sailor suit, and she's carrying.
God, that's like a old Okay.
Yes, like kind of like
you're old.
No, I'm
That's an old meme.
Yeah, but I see it on Twitter stuff. And so I'm like, all right, wearing a sailor suit, holding about a dozen individually wrapped roses. And she had, like a rosas. Like a rosa. I think it was Rosas Nice. And
wait, was she Latina?
Yes.
Okay.
And she
could have been, though.
But, okay, this is when it gets weird. She's wearing anime makeup. So she's wearing...
A Latina wearing...
Yes. This is...
And you didn't take a fucking picture?
No, because this was so... I was like, I don't know how to engage with this individual. Like, it scared me. It's like wearing Latina, wearing anime makeup.
But you take pictures of everything, and you've gotten so good at being stealth about
which I
it.
am. But I was so much in do not engage mode. I was just not my phone was in my pocket. I'm just I just need my coffee and I can deal with people. And I hadn't gotten it yet. So she's wearing anime makeup, but the very, very white powder with the glitter on the ends.
Jeez.
And then
she's wearing white face.
The eyeliner.
A Latina wearing
white face, dressed as an Asian. I thought it was Ariana Grande. But
go ahead,
it was holding the individually stemmed roses, and her mascara has clearly run a little bit, so she's been crying. And I'm like,
Jesus.
I don't know what the fuck happened. I don't know what house she was in last night. I'm not dealing with this. And she looks at me, and I just hear I see her mouth move, but I don't hear words coming out. She's like, and I'm like, what? And she's like, can you help me? I need just a little bit of help. And the roses start to move towards me, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, bye. And I just keep going down the street in front of the gas station. And it really made me worry. I'm like, why are there people our age busking and shucking and jiving? Not on a business street, but away from this is a residential neighborhood. For God knows what. Again, at 9-10 o'clock in the morning. It was very weird, and that's why I said it's my gypsy story, because I felt like I was being approached by gypsies. Buy some candy, my child needs surgery. All that shit that you see, It was very third world.
Yeah, so I had I understand your connection there. So I had a very similar experience when I went to France, when I went to Paris for a study abroad trip. Ironically,
what was her name?
Ironically, when you get to the very Catholic, district where the Sacré-Cœur is, the huge church,
yeah, I read the Da Vinci Code.
there's tons and tons of Muslims shoving shit in your face.
Like it's like the bazaar in Marrakesh or something. They're just
like on Hollywood Boulevard, where they say, "Here's a free thing of my, a demo of my music."
Oh God!
And they hand it to you and start talking to you, and then you realize this is not free. You want money. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
This did not happen to me, but other people that I was on the trip with, this did happen to them. Somewhat like one of those gypsy people, like put like one of those finger traps on them and like would not let them go unless they paid them money.
Oh, I would punch him. I'm sorry. I would have been so fucking violent.
So this is the shit that the gypsies, quote unquote gypsies, the modern day gypsies do in European countries. And so what you're saying is our modern day gypsies here in the United States
dress in sailor suits.
And anime makeup,
or try to sell chocolate outside of PetSmart with a bunch of dogs going in there.
I'm assuming we've talked about this. I think on the podcast before, this idea of the silent depression that we're in.
Yes, it felt like that.
Our generation will never know what home ownership is like because income versus cost of owning property is so vastly separated in numbers that we're actually worse off than the people who lived in the Great Depression, like
right,
percentage wise and adjusted for inflation. Like, when boomers, so anyone listening, because I've had to deal with this too, when boomers tell you, "Oh, I just don't understand why you didn't do everything that I did," this isn't the world you grew up in. Like, things are very different here. Like, I understand you busted your ass to work God knows how many hours to get enough money to buy a house, but imagine having to do that and just being able to pay rent off of that money that you just worked 80 hours a week for.
I think some of them are starting to get it. Because if you tell one of those boomers and you're like, well, okay, that's great. Can I get your pre-1965 immigration policy too? Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Can I get your pre-Civil Rights Act diversity and hiring policy too? Where I could just show up and talk. I could show up in a suit and start talking to somebody and be offered a job? Oh, okay, great. I don't have to go through 3 levels of being analyzed because they're afraid of being sued for, some kind of discrimination. Exactly. Can I get those? Because if I can get those, we can deal with the money thing. But those two things stand in the way of us, like.
And can we get the academia of 1970 something?
Yeah, I know. It's bizarre to me that that's still even a consideration. But I think that there were 2 bad economic indicators for me. And it made me feel like after walking through that, I was like, oh, it's bad. And it's not going to get any better anytime soon. Another one that I've noticed... But,
I'm sorry to use one of your lines, but who's the one making it bad for him?
She's the one making it bad for him, Kamala Harris. And the other thing I've noticed that's bad is seeing more and more house listings. You go on Zillow and you like a house.
Right.
And so you get more updates about it.
Right.
A lot of them are converting from... for sale to for rent, right? Even at all ends of the market, like there are some homes that are renting for like $25,000 a month because the person who bought it a few years ago and then took out a construction loan on fixing it to flip it cannot sell it, and so they're like, please just pay me so I can make the payments back on the loan.
I can't wait to see the next season of
Selling Sunset.
No, of $1 Million Listing Los Angeles, because my girl Tracy. Oh. She's going to be going through it.
She's on the skids. I told you that was the first indicator that the housing market went down. So Tracy Tudor had that. It wasn't even Tudor style. Tracy Tudor had that farmhouse for sale in a neighborhood that has like $750 to $1.5–2 million houses at top.
Right.
And she took a farmhouse, like it was a complete tear down, renovated a modern farmhouse, white and black, 2 stories, 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. And she, on a 6,000 square foot lot, so 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound sack. And she had it listed at what, $4 million?
Yeah.
In a neighborhood that caps out at 2? Like, it was like, how are you, this is not going to, and it took, I think, a year to sell. And you were like, my girl Tracy, like, she's going through it. She's going through a divorce. I'm like, you don't know this person. But
she was.
No, she was.
The very end of the last season is when she said, I can feel, I can see, I can sense a slowdown in real estate in this city happening.
Yeah.
And she said, it's scaring me. She said, this seems
improbable?
She didn't say impromptu, but, like, this seems like it's coming out of nowhere. I don't know why this is happening. And it's happening very quickly.
Yes.
Is what she kept saying.
Because it was last September, October, when the interest rates started to go up. And now we're at a year of that.
On like one of the last episodes, she had an open house for a house that was actually priced reasonably.
Yeah.
In one of these, neighborhoods around here, actually, in the Valley area. And for the first, hour and a half, no one showed up to the open house.
That's bad.
And she goes, can we just cut the cameras?
Cut the cameras. Dead ass.
We don't need to show this.
Well,
she's like, I'm getting nervous.
My indicators, knowing that it was bad, there's a few of them. But I like to go into open houses. And usually the range of open houses you can go in through, like, 1 to 2 million. Because you're going to get... In LA, I know other people are like, what? But I'm like, in LA, that's like a family home.
Right.
Roughly, in most areas.
A family van.
Exactly. And so, 1 to 2 million, you'll get an open house, they'll have a bottle of water there, everything like this. Maybe if you're really pushing, like the most expensive open house I'd ever been to up to that point was up to basically a few months back was a $5 million house. And I was like, oh, it was really nice. Like, it was this gorgeous house, like, up Doheny. It had a guest house. It was like an Italian villa that someone just dropped on the lot. There were fountains. There was a yacht. Like, it was gorgeous, and I think it sold very well. Kyle and I went to an open house a couple weekends ago for a house that was priced at $11 million. Now, if you have a house at that price, if you have showings, they're usually by appointment only.
Because you have to verify income.
So it's by appointment only with a pre-approval. Like, you have to show, I can afford an $11 million house, of which
they don't want riffraff like you just walking through the house.
Traipsing through like gypsies. And so...
leaving your snail trail everywhere.
Exactly. And so I was so surprised that they had an open house, and so I went there and I asked the very well-appointed real estate agent as he walked in, and I said, this house is beautiful. Like, there's a motor court. They have this beautiful pool. It's in the Bird Street. It's above Sunset. 270-degree views of the city, like from Santa Monica all the way to downtown. Like, absolutely gorgeous, like Mediterranean, like museum level renovation on this house. Like, the door stops are these gorgeous little brass cylinders that are built into the wood floor so that when the door goes back, it stops it. Like, the hardware on the door.
What, like a magnetic one?
No, it's built like down into the floor. Like, it was like a
right,
rod.
But some of them have like the things,
magnetic,
that catch the door. Yeah.
And then this is how I knew it was quality. There was one room that was designed in a slightly different style. And so one side of the door handle was antiquated brass fixture. One side of the door handle was chrome because the rest of the house up to that point had the same style. And they put one of each metal on each side of the door to reflect the 2 rooms that those door handles were fixed. Like, insane levels of quality.
Because that's not easy to do, yeah.
No, you have to get that basically custom done.
Right.
And I asked
you would
her,
think that would be easy to do, but it's not.
It's not, because you can't just go get your little quick set and set something the pump. You have to have whatever the company is that makes those has to send you custom ones. And I asked her, and I was like, why are you I said, I have to ask, why are you doing an open house? She's like, I'm going to be honest. The seller bought this a couple years ago at auction. Spent way too much money renovating it, to the point he is diagnosed OCD to detail, like Jeff Lewis.
Right.
And she was like, he just needs to sell it now.
It could have been Jeff Lewis.
It might have been. I know this is out of his range. She's like, he just needs to sell it. Like, he cannot continue to pay the loan that he paid on this house,
right?
And be in good financial straits. So you're seeing a lot of that now, and I'm also seeing in some neighborhoods all across the country people buying houses for Airbnb. Well, now fewer people have the disposable income to travel, so they're not getting Airbnbs anymore. So now these places that would have been booked 20 out of 30 days of the month, they're booked 2 or 3, and now they're going to have to sell these properties
right.
at a loss in some cases. So it's bad, and it's because of your president, Joseph Robinette.
Why is it mine?
I don't know. Your boy. We still have so many topics to talk about, but we'll save a few to talk about in the next episode. So, instead of eating a bag of raw spinach...
Okay.
Eat a bag of raw fuck, bitch.
No, I thought there might have been one more we could squeeze in, but they're all stuff that
these
we're going
to
talk for a long time.
I think these might be the next 5 episodes I got.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well,
we don't have that much time.
Let's record one later tonight after we come back. Like, the French. We'll sound like Orson Welles towards the end.
Okay, as a preview to
what's next.
Yes. Actually, no. I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
My date that I had last night, he can go fuck himself.
Oh.
Like all of you.
Oh, do you think he'll see his gypsy?
No. He's Jewish. He's cheap. What do you...